Yeah, no, there was a towel soaked in blood at the bottom of this seat, which is where she came out of.
This is the moment that landed Tory Lanez in prison. 2 years into his sentence, he was stabbed over a dozen times and is now on life support. Both of his lungs were punctured during a violent fight. But here's where it gets even crazier. Inmate has come forward saying that Tory won't make it out alive. So who's behind the stabbing? Why are death threats piling up? And what's really happening behind those prison walls? Let's break it all down. The shocking prison attack. Tory Lanez was stabbed 14 times on May 12, 2025 at the California Correctional Institution. The attack happened around 7:20 a.m. in the prison yard. Started as a normal day, quickly turned into chaos when another inmate attacked him with what prison guards called a homemade shank, basically a knife made inside prison. This wasn't just a warning or a fight. According to reports, the attacker went after Tory with serious intent. He stabbed him 14 times, hitting several parts of his body. It looked like a planned hit with no mistakes. 7 stabs were to his back, 4 to his torso, 2 to the back of his head, and 1 to the side of his face. The worst part? Both of Tory's lungs collapsed from the stabbing. And in case you didn't know, when both lungs fail, it becomes a life or death emergency. Thankfully, the guards acted fast. They followed emergency procedures and called paramedics right away. Tory was given first aid in the yard before being rushed by ambulance to a hospital in Kern County. At first, the injuries didn't seem too serious, but as more details came out, it became clear how close he was to dying. The situation was so bad that doctors had to put him on a breathing machine to keep him alive. Now, the good news is Tory is said to be breathing on his own and feeling better. This attack has raised some serious questions. Why was he targeted? And what does this mean for the rest of his time in prison? The California Correctional Institution in Tehachapi, where Tory is serving time, is a medium security prison with thousands of inmates. Like many other prisons, it's full of gang politics and violence, and being a celebrity doesn't make you any safer. When it comes to someone like Lanez, trust me, the risks behind bars are way higher. So, was this just a random prison fight? Was it about gang issues or prison yard politics? Or could it be tied to his high-profile court case? Let's dig into it. What makes this whole situation even more suspicious is the timing. The attack happened just 4 months after Tory Lanez was hit with a 5-year restraining order from Megan Thee Stallion, the same woman he was convicted of shooting. The timing has a lot of people wondering if there's a connection. While there's no solid proof backing these theories, it's definitely raising eyebrows. To really understand how deep this goes, we need to look back at what landed Lanez in prison to begin with. This isn't just a simple case of a prison stabbing. The whole story is layered. Tory Lanez, real name Daystar Peterson, is currently serving a 10-year sentence for shooting fellow rapper Megan Thee Stallion in the feet after a party in the Hollywood Hills. The shooting happened on July 12, 2020, and it sparked major controversy and divided public opinion. Some believe the whole thing might have been a setup against Lanez.
There's some blood up here.
Yeah, no, there was a towel soaked in blood at the bottom of this seat, which is where she came out of.
After a highly publicized trial that had everyone watching closely, Lanez was found guilty on December 23, 2022. He was convicted on multiple charges, including assault with a semi-automatic firearm, carrying a loaded unregistered gun in a vehicle, and firing a weapon with gross negligence. This came after Megan Thee Stallion, whose real name is Megan Pete, took the stand and testified that Lanez shot her. She spoke about how the shooting affected her physically and emotionally. According to the trial, Lanez fired shots at Megan's feet during an argument in the car, causing injuries that required her to undergo painful surgery. On August 8, 2023, Judge David Hereford sentenced Lanez to 10 years in prison at the LA County Superior Court. Lanez's legal team tried to get him out on bail while they appealed the case, but that request was denied a month later. The judge noted the violent nature of the crime, Lanez's past legal issues, and the risk of deportation, since he isn't a U.S. citizen. Throughout the entire process, and even after being sentenced, Lanez has maintained his innocence. That's led some people to believe the whole situation was a setup, but the court didn't agree. LA County District Attorney George Gascon even used the case to speak out about the larger issue of violence against women, especially in the music and entertainment industry.
The fact that Ms. Pete is a successful entertainer has brought the spotlight on the important issue of violence against women. There are many people in our community that endure acts of violence every day from people close to them and feel reluctant to come forward when this happens.
Now, less than 2 years into his 10-year sentence, Lanez is facing a whole new battle, trying to stay alive in a dangerous prison where it seems he's already been targeted. This has sparked serious concerns about his safety and what steps might be needed to protect him during the remaining 8 years of his sentence. Prison officials and investigators are now asking some tough questions. Should Lanez be moved to a different facility? Should he be placed in protective custody? Or should they launch a serious investigation to find out exactly who was behind the attack? As for Lanez himself, the road ahead looks tough. While reports say he's stable and improving, recovering from being stabbed 14 times, both physically and mentally, is no small thing. Even if he's moved to another prison, there's no guarantee he won't be attacked again. That raises a chilling question: is he really marked for death? The legal drama and restraining order. Let's take a step back and explain the full story between Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez, including a recent restraining order that's added even more drama to an already intense case.
There was an argument in the car?
It was an argument because I was ready to go and everybody else wasn't ready to go.
The drama between Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion started with one violent night, but quickly turned into a long legal battle filled with court hearings, public statements, social media chaos, and now a 5-year restraining order that was approved just months before Tory was stabbed in prison. Let's take it back to the beginning and break down how it all unfolded. It started in July 2020, when Tory was accused of shooting Megan Thee Stallion in both feet after they left a party at Kylie Jenner's house in the Hollywood Hills. A few months later, in October 2020, Tory was officially charged with felony assault with a semi-automatic firearm, use of a firearm, and carrying an unregistered loaded gun in a vehicle. Even though the charges were serious, it took more than 2 years for the case to finally go to trial. During that time, both Tory and Megan kept making headlines, whether through interviews, court appearances, or viral posts. Megan was open about how the shooting had deeply affected her life. When the trial began in December 2022, the whole hip-hop world watched closely. People took sides, and social media exploded. In court, Megan gave emotional testimony, detailing exactly what happened that night. Other witnesses, including her former friend Kelsey Harris, who was also in the car when the shots were fired, also spoke. On December 23, 2022, the jury found Tory guilty on all charges: assault with a semi-automatic weapon, possession of an unregistered firearm, and firing a weapon with gross negligence. It was a big win for Megan, and confirmed her side of the Yas story. After the conviction, Tory's legal team tried to get a lighter sentence, but on August 8, 2023, Judge David Hereford sentenced him to 10 years in prison. His request for bail during appeal was denied on September 14, 2023, and Tory officially started his sentence at the California Correctional Institution in Tehachapi, the same place where he was recently attacked. But the legal drama didn't stop there. On December 17, 2024, nearly a year and a half after he was locked up, Megan filed for a restraining order. According to her, even from behind bars, Tory was still harassing her through third parties and social media. Court documents said Tory was still trying to control the narrative by paying bloggers and others to spread lies about her, keeping the pressure and trauma alive. Megan's legal team described it as emotional abuse that hadn't stopped since 2020, and they argued that he was using his influence even from prison. It painted a disturbing picture. Despite being locked up, Tory's reach may have extended far beyond prison walls. It really felt like Tory was still able to control Megan's life, like firing another shot at her, but this time from behind bars, all the way to her home in Houston. A hearing on the restraining order took place in early January 2025. Megan testified via video, sharing just how much the situation had been affecting her. She said, "I haven't been at peace since I was shot. I'm just trying to not be hurt anymore, not just by the person who shot me, but by the people he's paying to keep harassing me." One of the most emotional moments came when she admitted, "I feel like maybe he'll shoot me again, and maybe this time I won't make it." That line alone made it clear. The trauma was still fresh, and healing was far from complete. After reviewing the testimony and evidence, Judge Richard Bloom granted the restraining order on January 9th, 2025. It will remain in effect until January 9th, 2030, offering Megan 5 full years of legal protection. This new restraining order replaced a previous criminal protective order that had expired after Tory's conviction. The conditions were straightforward. Tory was banned from contacting Megan directly or indirectly, meaning no phone calls, messages, or communication through third parties or social media. He also had to keep a set distance away from her home, and her workplace. Now, realistically, the order probably won't change much for Tory, especially since he's expected to remain behind bars for those 5 years. But what really stood out is the fact that the court still felt this restraining order was necessary, even though he's in prison. That suggests the judge believed Tory still had influence on the outside, possibly through people tied to gangs or other associates. Kind of wild, honestly. It shows how, for celebrities, and especially those with big followings, being in prison doesn't always mean being powerless. And here's where things get even more suspicious. The restraining order was granted on January 9th, 2025. Just 4 months later, on May 12th, Tory was violently stabbed in prison. While there's no direct evidence linking the two events, the close timing has sparked a lot of questions, especially about whether the long-standing tension between Megan and Tory played any part in what went down. Still, we need to remember that all of this is speculation. Prison violence happens for all kinds of reasons: gang rivalries, personal beef, power struggles, or even just random outbursts. There's no official motive yet, and the investigation is ongoing, but the restraining order and the legal drama definitely give people a reason to wonder. It's hard to believe that a 5-year feud this intense would just end with some legal paperwork. Somebody was always going to take the fall, call it payback, revenge, or just the tragic fallout of a long and public battle. For Megan, the restraining order is a way to feel safer, a step toward peace of mind. For Tory, he should count himself lucky. Despite getting stabbed 14 times and having both lungs collapse, he survived. It could have been much worse. His conviction and time in prison mark one of the most dramatic downfalls in recent hip-hop history. A few years ago, he was headlining sold-out shows. Now, just 2 years into a 10-year sentence, he's barely clinging to life, and his future in the music industry is on life support too. This whole legal saga has also reignited an important conversation about violence against women, especially in the entertainment world. As LA County District Attorney George Gascon put it during the case, Megan's courage to speak up, despite being a high-profile artist, has helped shine a light on the abuse and harassment many women face in silence. Raising awareness about violence and abuse is one of the few silver linings in cases like this. Megan Thee Stallion's courage has encouraged others to speak up, much like what we're seeing in the unfolding legal saga involving music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. At the same time, this case has exposed some dark truths about celebrity culture and the chaos of social media, where public figures can quickly become targets of harassment, misinformation, and toxic fan behavior. The belief that Tory Lanez has been orchestrating harassment campaigns from behind bars may sound extreme, but it highlights just how much influence certain celebrities still seem to hold, even while locked up. Tory Lanez's uncertain future. So far, we've broken down the prison stabbing that left Lanez paralyzed with 14 stab wounds and collapsed lungs. We've also covered the legal battle between him and Megan Thee Stallion, a fight that led to a 10-year sentence and a 5-year restraining order. Let's talk about what this violent incident could mean for Lanez moving forward. Will he ever make a comeback in the music industry? And what does his future look like behind bars? The May 12th, 2025 stabbing at California Correctional Institution has flipped the narrative on Lanez's incarceration and possibly his entire career. What was already a tough 10-year sentence with a faint glimmer of a comeback has now turned into a dark and uncertain situation. Serious questions are now being raised about whether he can safely serve the rest of his time in that facility, or any regular prison for that matter. Let's start with the immediate aftermath. Reports say Lanez is currently recovering in a Kern County hospital. While his condition has stabilized, full recovery will be long and difficult, almost like learning how to live all over again. Both of his lungs collapsed in the attack, which is a severe medical emergency requiring extensive treatment and rehab. And mentally, being ambushed and slashed like that leaves scars that go way beyond the skin. Once he's medically cleared, Lanez will have to re-enter the prison system, but the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, CDCR, now has a tough decision to make. There are a few possible options on the table. Send him back to the same facility, but in protective custody, PC, also known as ADSEG or administrative segregation. This would isolate Lanez from the general population to keep him safe. Might sound like a good move, but it comes with harsh downsides. Extreme isolation, limited access to programs, restricted human contact, and serious mental health risks over time. Transfer him to a different prison within California, preferably one with higher security or a special unit for high-profile inmates. While that could give him a fresh start away from the violence at Tehachapi, it doesn't guarantee safety. The same issues could follow him, especially if someone else decides he's a target. Transfer him to a federal facility through an interstate compact agreement. This is a less common move, usually reserved for inmates facing exceptional risk, but this would require a mountain of paperwork, interagency approval, and very specific conditions. Regardless of what option the CDCR chooses, one thing is clear: Lanez's status as a celebrity inmate has made him a high-risk individual. In prison, being famous can paint a target on your back. Whether it's jealousy, revenge, clout chasing, or prison politics, celebrities often deal with dangers most inmates never have to think about. The ongoing threats and fallout for Tory Lanez. Extortion attempts, gang politics, and the complex power struggles of prison life, for someone like Tory Lanez, these dangers aren't just hypothetical. His case has been highly publicized and deeply divisive, putting a huge target on his back from day one. The recent stabbing that left him with 14 wounds and 2 collapsed lungs has triggered a full-blown investigation. The prison's internal unit and the Kern County District Attorney's Office are now trying to figure out exactly what went down, who was involved, and why it happened. The outcome of that investigation could seriously impact where Lanez plays next and what kind of protective measures he'll need moving forward. If this was gang-related, then officials may have to step up with very specific protocols, possibly isolating him or moving him to another unit entirely. If it was a personal beef or just a random act of violence, the approach would be different. But one thing is for sure, without understanding the true motive behind the attack, it'll be impossible to keep it from happening again. Now let's be real, violence in prison isn't anything new. According to the Bureau of Justice statistics, physical altercations happen with disturbing regularity in correctional facilities across the country. What happened to Lanez? That's on another level. 14 stab wounds and collapsed lungs? That's not your average prison fight. That's an attempted execution, and it signals a serious breakdown in prison security. What makes it even more complicated is the timing. This attack went down just 4 months after Megan Thee Stallion was granted a 5-year restraining order against Lanez. There's no confirmed connection between the two events, but the timing has people talking. The restraining order and the claims that Lanez was still harassing Megan from prison have created new enemies behind bars. Did it affect how other inmates viewed him? Did it bring unwanted attention to his cell block? Some fans and observers are even speculating about deeper connections, like whether this was orchestrated by someone tied to either Lanez or Megan. But at the end of the day, most of these theories are just that, speculation. Prison violence often has way more to do with internal dynamics than anything happening outside the fence. Still, it's impossible to ignore the bigger picture here. Lanez has served less than 2 years of his 10-year sentence. With 8 more to go, the road ahead just got a lot more dangerous. The physical injuries alone will take a long time to recover from, and the psychological damage, the trauma of nearly dying in a surprise attack, will be something he carries with him every single day behind bars. This incident might not be the end of his legal drama. If the investigation into the stabbing leads to arrest, Lanez may have to testify in court. That could expose him to even more danger, especially if gangs are involved. Nobody wants to be labeled a snitch in prison. From a medical perspective, Lanez's future isn't looking easy either. Collapsed lungs can cause long-term issues, reduced lung function, chronic pain, even a higher risk of respiratory infection. Making sure he gets proper care will now be a top concern for prison officials. But more than anything, this entire situation is a stark reminder of how dangerous the prison system can be, especially for high-profile inmates like Lanez. Fame can bring power on the outside, but inside, it can make you a target. And with the legal drama, media spotlight, now a near-fatal stabbing in the mix, Tory Lanez's time behind bars just got way more complicated, and possibly a lot more dangerous. Final thoughts. A turning point in a long road ahead. The attack on Tory Lanez attracted massive public attention, raising questions that go far beyond headlines. Balancing punishment, rehabilitation, and basic safety is never easy, and incidents like this make it painfully clear just how difficult that balance really is. For Megan Thee Stallion, hearing about the stabbing likely brings up mixed emotions. In her testimony for the restraining order, she made it clear how afraid she still was, saying, "I feel like maybe he'll shoot me again, and maybe this time I won't make it." Still, violence against anyone, even someone who's caused harm, brings up tough ethical questions. No one deserves to be violently attacked, and the situation underscores how complex and emotionally charged this case continues to be. The public reaction has been just as layered. Some people have shown sympathy for Lanez despite the seriousness of his conviction. Others see the incident as proof of deeper problems within the US prison system. Many are connecting it to broader conversations about violence, celebrity culture, and the consequences of fame and criminal behavior. These reactions highlight just how multifaceted this saga is, touching everything from personal trauma to systemic failures. This story continues to unfold. We're left with some major questions. Will the investigation uncover a clear motive for the stabbing? What protective measures will be taken to ensure Lanez's safety? How will this attack impact his remaining time behind bars and his possible return to society? And what does this say about the prison system, violence, and the complicated relationship between celebrity and justice? Especially in a place like California, what's clear is that this stabbing marks a major turning point in Lanez's incarceration. It takes what was already a tough 10-year sentence and turns it into something far more dangerous. A situation where survival, not just time, becomes the priority. With 8 more years ahead, the consequences of this attack will stretch well beyond his hospital recovery. We're now talking about long-term safety, psychological trauma, and the possibility that similar threats could strike again. The California Correctional Institution in Tehachapi, like many prisons nationwide, faces an enormous challenge. It has to punish criminal behavior, offer rehabilitation, and most importantly, keep inmates safe. When it comes to high-profile cases like Lanez's, any slip in that balance can lead to serious consequences, and in this case, nearly fatal ones. For Tory Lanez, the road ahead is more uncertain than ever. He survived an attack that could have easily ended his life. Now he lives with the knowledge that similar threats might still exist. How he deals with this reality and how the correctional system responds to the glaring security lapses could shape not only his own future, but the national conversation about prison safety for celebrities and beyond. We'll be following this story as it develops, from investigation updates to changes in Lanez's custody status, and what it all means for everyone involved. Started as a violent incident has opened up a much deeper dialogue around justice, power, safety, and the human stories hidden behind viral headlines. And with that, we've wrapped up today's video. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit that like button, subscribe, and check out our other deep dives exposing wild truths and crazy stories from the world of music, crime, and pop culture. Stay woke, fam.